Welcome. For professional exam preparation, tutoring, and study guides, scan the QR code or save the contact information shown on screen. Question 1. A help desk at a cloud startup must distinguish authentication from authorization. Which statement is accurate during a service reliability review for scenario 9? 1a. Authentication assigns file permissions after login. B. Authentication verifies identity, while authorization determines allowed actions. C. Authorization replaces logging for privileged accounts. D. Authorization proves a user's identity with a password. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Authentication verifies identity, while authorization determines allowed actions. Authentication answers who the user is, and authorization answers what the verified user may access. Permissions alone do not verify identity. Passwords are authentication factors, and logging remains part of accountability. Question 2. During a zero trust rollout for a manufacturing plant, which design principle should guide access to the wireless network while updating the runbook? A. Disable MFA to reduce login friction. B. Trust all users once they are on the corporate network. C. Place every system on one flat internal VLAN. D. Continuously verify identity, device posture, and context before allowing access. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Continuously verify identity, device posture, and context before allowing access. Zero trust assumes no implicit trust and evaluates access requests based on verified signals. Network location alone, weaker authentication, and flat segmentation conflict with zero trust principles. Need help preparing for your exam? Scan the QR code or contact us on WhatsApp at +1 716 356 9126. You can also email remote.exams01@mail.com for professional tutoring and study guides. Question 3. Which example is a preventive technical control for a legal office's database cluster for the next maintenance window? A. A policy document stored in the HR portal. B. A firewall rule that blocks unauthorized inbound traffic. C. A CCTV recording reviewed after theft. D. A weekly executive risk report. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. A firewall rule that blocks unauthorized inbound traffic. A firewall rule can technically prevent unwanted traffic before it reaches the service. Reports, recordings, and policy documents are useful, but they do not directly prevent traffic at the technical boundary. Question 4. After suspicious activity appears in a managed service provider's logs, which control acts primarily as detective during a quarterly review for scenario 9? 4a. SIEM correlation that alerts on abnormal events. B. A door badge reader that controls entry. C. A password complexity policy. D. Disk encryption on laptops. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. SIEM correlation that alerts on abnormal events. SIEM alerting identifies and reports events that may require investigation. Encryption, badge access, and password policy are mainly protective or preventive rather than detective. Question 5. If the retail chain cannot immediately replace a legacy system, which approach is a compensating control while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9? 5a. Give all users local administrator rights. B. Ignore the weakness until the next budget cycle. C. Disable backups to reduce system load. D. Place the system on an isolated VLAN with strict. The answer is D. Place the system on an isolated VLAN with strict firewall rules. A compensating control reduces risk when the preferred control cannot be implemented right away. Ignoring the issue. Expanding. Question 6. Which item is a directive control during a city agency security awareness program after a recent audit finding for scenario 9? 6a. NIPS blocking malicious traffic. B. A written policy requiring users to report suspected phishing. C. A backup server replicating data. D. A honeypot collecting attacker behavior. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. A written policy requiring users to report suspected phishing. Directive controls tell people what actions or behavior are required. IPs, honeypots, and backups are technical controls that detect, deceive, or recover rather than direct behavior. Question 7. Why might a research lab deploy honeypot inside a monitored lab network during a pilot deployment for scenario 9? 7. A. To observe attacker behavior against a decoy system. B. To replace all endpoint protection tools. C. To guarantee malware cannot enter the network. D. To store production credentials for faster login. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. To observe attacker behavior against a decoy system. A honeypot is a deception technology that attracts or monitors suspicious activity in a controlled environment. It should not contain real credentials, replace layered defenses, or be treated as a guarantee against malware. Question 8. Before changing firewall rules for an insurance firm's wireless network, which change management item is most important while documenting the incident ticket? A. Immediate production changes without review. B. A password reset for every employee. C. An informal chat message with no ticket. D. Documented approval, testing plan, rollback plan, and implementation window. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Documented approval, testing plan, rollback plan, and implementation window. Formal change management reduces outage and security risk by requiring review, testing, scheduling, and rollback planning. Informal approval, unreviewed production changes, and unrelated password resets do not control the change safely. Question 9. During a software release at a hospital network, which practice best supports accountability for configuration changes as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 9? 9A. Use version control with commit history and reviewed pull requests. B. Share one generic deployment account. C. Remove comments and history from every script. D. Store final scripts only on one administrator's laptop. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Use version control with commit history and reviewed pull requests. Version control preserves change history and associates updates with identifiable contributors and reviewers. Single device storage, shared accounts, and removed history make changes harder to trace. Question 10. Which PKI component lets a university department's browsers verify that a server certificate changed to trusted issuer before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 10? A. Broadcast domain. B. Packet sniffer. C. Wireless access point. D. Certificate authority. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Certificate authority. A certificate authority issues and signs certificates that clients can validate through trust chain. Access points, broadcast domains, and packet sniffers do not establish certificate trust. Question 11. How does asymmetric encryption help a financial services team exchange data securely with external partners during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 11? A. It uses a public key and a private key for encryption-related operations. B. It uses one shared password for every partner. C. It removes the need for certificate validation. D. It stores all private keys in DNS records. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. It uses a public key and a private key for encryption-related operations. Asymmetric cryptography uses key pairs, allowing secure exchange and verification without sharing the private key, shared passwords, skipped validation, and public storage of private keys we can trust and confidentiality. Question 12. Which method should a remote sales group use to store user passwords more safely while updating the runbook for scenario 9 to 12? A. Salted and slow cryptographic password hashing. B. Plain text storage in a protected spreadsheet. C. Reversible encryption with the key beside the database. D. Base 64 encoding before saving the password. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Salted and slow cryptographic password hashing. Salting and slow password hashing make password cracking more difficult if the database is stolen. Plain text, poorly managed reversible encryption, and encoding do not provide appropriate password storage protection. Question 13. Why is a unique salt added before hashing passwords for a data analytics unit's account database for the next maintenance window for scenario 9 to 13? A. It turns a hash into reversible encryption. B. It prevents identical passwords from producing identical stored hashes. C. It allows administrators to recover forgotten passwords. D. It replaces the need for MFA. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. It prevents identical passwords from producing identical stored hashes. A salt makes pre-computed hash attacks and duplicate password identification less effective. Salting does not enable recovery, replace MFA, or make a hash reversible. Question 14. Which cryptographic feature should a software company use to verify both message integrity and sender authenticity during a quarterly review for scenario 9 to 14? A. Screen lock timer. B. Load balancer. C. Digital signature. D. Guest VLAN. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Digital signature. A digital signature validates that the message was signed by the private key holder and has not changed. A. VLAN, load balancer, and screen lock do not provide cryptographic proof of sender and content integrity. Question 15. When a call center wants to process payments without storing actual card numbers, which technique is most appropriate while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9 to 15? A. Password spraying. B. Port forwarding. C. Tokenization. D. Screen sharing. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Tokenization. Tokenization replaces sensitive values with tokens that have limited meaning outside the payment system. Screen sharing and port forwarding do not reduce stored payment data exposure, while password spraying is an attack. Question 16. For a training screenshot at a distribution warehouse, which method hides sensitive fields while preserving the document format after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 16? A. ARP spoofing. B. Tailgating. C. Data masking. D. Open relay configuration. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Data masking. Data masking conceals sensitive values while keeping realistic structure for training or testing. ARP spoofing, open relays, and tailgating are security risks, not privacy-preserving data handling methods. Question 17. After a regional clinic's file shares are encrypted and a payment note appears, which first response is most appropriate during a pilot deployment for scenario 9 to 17? A. Reconnect infected hosts to verify spread. B. Isolate affected systems and preserve evidence for recovery. C. Delete all logs to free disk space. D. Pay immediately without validating backups. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Isolate affected systems and preserve evidence for recovery. Isolation limits further ransomware impact, while evidence preservation supports investigation and recovery decisions. Immediate payment, log deletion, and reconnecting infected hosts can worsen the incident or destroy useful evidence. Question 18. A user at a payment processor receives an email urging immediate password verification through a lookalike login page. Which attack is most likely while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 18? A. Phishing. B. Smurf attack. C. Port scanning. D. bluejacking. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Phishing. Phishing uses deceptive messages and spoof pages to trick users into giving up credentials or sensitive information. Bluejacking, Smurf attacks, and port scanning describe different technical activities. Question 19. Which clue best indicates spear phishing against an executive at a school district as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 9 to 19? A. A routine patch notification from the approved portal. B. A blocked inbound ping from a scanner. C. A broadcast outage affecting all switches. D. A highly personalized email referencing a real project and asking for urgent action. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D, a highly personalized email referencing a real project and asking for urgent action. Spear phishing targets a specific person or role using tailored details to increase credibility. Outages, valid patch notices, and blocked pings do not indicate a personalized social engineering attempt. Question 20. During a phone call, an attacker claims to be its support and asks a user at a logistics company for an MFA code. Which term fits best before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 20? A. DNS tunneling. B. Pretexting through USB. C. Smishing. The answer is D. Phishing. Phishing is voice-based social engineering that uses phone calls to manipulate victims. Smishing. Question 21. If employees at a cloud startup receive text messages linking to fake payroll login, which threat vector is being used during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 21? A. Smishing. B. VLAN hopping. C. Password salting. D. War driving. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Smishing. Smishing is phishing delivered through SMS or text messaging. VLAN hopping and war driving are network attacks, while password salting is a defensive storage technique. Question 22. Which action best reduces supply chain risk before a manufacturing plant adopts a new software vendor while updating the run book for scenario 9 to 22? A. Review the vendor's security controls, update process, and contractual obligations. B. Disable software updates permanently. C. Skip vendor review because the product is popular. D. Use the vendor's default admin password. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Review the vendor's security controls, update process, and contractual obligations. Vendor assessment helps identify risks introduced by third-party software and support processes. Popularity, default credentials, and disabled updates leave supply chain weaknesses unmanaged. Question 23. How can a legal office better detect a trusted employee abusing access to the HR system for the next maintenance window? A. Move the asset to public internet access. B. Disable all logging for privacy. C. Give the employee additional shared accounts. D. Monitor behavior for anomalous activity tied to the user's normal baseline. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Monitor behavior for anomalous activity tied to the user's normal baseline. User and entity behavior analytics can reveal insider activity that differs from expected patterns. Reduced logging, shared accounts, and public exposure make abuse harder to detect and contain. Question 24. When staff at a managed service provider use an unsanctioned file sharing app for customer records, which issue is present during a quarterly review for scenario 9 to 24? A. Network tap. B. Shadow it. C. Immutable backup. D. Certificate pinning. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Shadow it. Shadow it occurs when users adopt technology without organizational approval or governance. Certificate pinning, immutable backups, and network taps describe approved technical mechanisms, not unsanctioned service use. Question 25. Which attack uses stolen username password pairs from one breach to try logins at a retail chain's portal while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9 to 25? A. Credential stuffing. B. Birthday attack. C. Authentication flood. D. DNS zone transfer. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Credential stuffing. Credential stuffing relies on reused credentials from other breaches to gain access to different services. Birthday attacks target hash collisions. Zone transfers expose DNS data. And authentication floods target wireless availability. Question 26. An attacker tries a few common passwords against many accounts at a city agency. Which attack is most likely after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 26? A. Pass the ticket. B. MAC filtering. C. SQL injection. D. Password spraying. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Password spraying. Password spraying avoids rapid lockout by testing common passwords across many accounts. Pass the ticket abuses Kerberos tickets. SQL injection targets applications. And MAC filtering is a weak access control method. Question 27. After obtaining an NTLM hash at a research lab, an attacker authenticates without knowing the plaintext password. Which attack is shown during a pilot deployment for scenario 9 to 27? A. Rainbow table prevention. B. ARC inspection. C. Pass the hash. D. Key stretching. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Pass the hash. Pass the hash uses captured password hashes as authentication material in compatible environments. ARC inspection and key stretching are defenses, while rainbow table prevention describes a protection goal, not the attack. Question 28. Which control most directly reduces risk from stolen passwords at an insurance firm's remote access portal while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 28? A. A public file share. B. A larger wireless channel with. C. Multi-factor authentication. D. Longer DHCP leases. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Multi-factor authentication. MFA requires another proof beyond the password, reducing the usefulness of stolen credentials. DHCP leases, channel width, and public sharing do not strengthen authentication. Question 29. A web format. A hospital network concatenates user input into SQL queries. Which secure coding practice is best as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 9 to 29? A. Allow every character without validation. B. Run the database as a domain administrator. C. Use parameterized queries. D. Hide error messages only after deployment. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Use parameterized queries. Parameterized queries separate code from user supply data, reducing SQL injection risk, unrestricted input, superficial error hiding, and excessive database privileges leave the application exposed. Question 30. Which defense best reduces reflected script execution in a university department's web application before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 30? A. Disabling backups. B. Static routing only. C. Open SNMP community strings. D. Output encoding and input validation. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Output encoding and input validation. Cross-site scripting risk is reduced when entrusted input is validated. Question 31. How should a financial services team protect a state-changing web request from forged browser submissions during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 31? A. Require users to clear browser history daily. B. Increase the DNS-TTL. C. Move the server to a larger subnet. D. Use anti-CSRF tokens tied to the user session. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Use anti-CSRF tokens tied to the user session. Anti-CSRF tokens help verify that a request came from the legitimate application flow. DNS-TTL, subnet size, and browser history clearing do not validate request intent. Question 32. A cloud app at a remote sales group can be tricked into requesting the metadata service URL. Which vulnerability is most likely while updating the runbook for scenario 9 to 32? A. LDAP signing. B. Data tokenization. C. Server-side request forgery. D. MAC flooding. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Server-side request forgery. SSRF causes a server to make unintended requests, often to internal or metadata endpoints. MAC flooding targets switches. LDAP signing is a protection, and tokenization is a data protection method. Question 33. Which control best reduces path traversal in a data analytics unit's file download feature for the next maintenance window for scenario 9 to 33? A. Place database backups in the web root. B. Disable TLS on the site. C. Use shared local administrator accounts. D. Normalize and validate file paths against an allowed directory. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Normalize and validate file paths against an allowed directory. Path validation prevents requests such as parent directory traversal from reaching unauthorized files. Disabling TLS, exposing backups, and shared admin accounts create additional security problems. Question 34. For a legacy application at a software company, which feature helps reduce buffer overflow exploitation during a quarterly review for scenario 9 to 34. A. Longer DHCP release times. B. Address space layout randomization and data execution prevention. C. A flat network topology. D. Larger email attachments. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Address space layout randomization and data execution prevention. ASLR and department make memory exploitation harder by randomizing locations and preventing execution in data regions. Attachment size, flat networks, and DHCP releases do not mitigate memory corruption. Question 35. A public site for a call center is overwhelmed by traffic from thousands of sources. Which mitigation is strongest while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9 to 35? A. Move all backups to the web server. B. Use DDoS scrubbing or CDN-based protection. C. Publish database credentials for transparency. D. Disable MFA for administrators. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Use DDoS scrubbing or CDN-based protection. DDoS protection absorbs or filters large attack traffic before it reaches the origin service, weakening administration and exposing credentials. Question 36. Which control helps prevent an on-path attacker from reading credentials to distribution warehouses portal after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 36? A. Allow expired certificates. B. Use plain HTTP for faster loading. C. Share a single account for all users. D. Enforce modern TLS with certificate validation. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Enforce modern TLS with certificate validation. TLS with valid certificates encrypts traffic and helps clients verify the server identity. Plain HTTP, expired certificates, and shared accounts make credential interception or misuse more likely. Question 37. An attacker on a regional clinic's LAN sends fake ARP replies to intercept traffic. Which protection is relevant during a pilot deployment for scenario 9 to 37? A. Password history. B. Dynamic ARP inspection. C. Email journaling. D. Data masking. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Dynamic ARP inspection. Dynamic ARP inspection helps block malicious ARP responses based on trusted bindings. Email journaling, masking, and password history do not validate ARP traffic. Question 38. Which measure helps reduce DNS cache poisoning risk for a payment processor while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 38? A. Use secure DNS practices such as DNS SEC validation and patched resolvers. B. Disable endpoint logging. C. Reuse default router passwords. D. Route all traffic through Telnet. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Use secure DNS practices such as DNS SEC validation and patched resolvers. DNS SEC validation and maintained resolvers help detect or prevent forged DNS data. Less logging, default passwords, and Telnet weaken security and do not protect DNS integrity. Question 39. A user at a school district joins a fake Wi-Fi network imitating the office SSID. Which attack is most likely as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 9 to 39? A. EvaultWin. B. Directory traversal. C. Logic bomb. D. Blue team exercise. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. EvaultWin. An EvaultWin is a rogue wireless network made to look legitimate so users connect to it. Logic bombs and traversal attacks are different threats, while a blue team exercise is defensive. Question 40. Which step helps a logistics company find unauthorized wireless access points before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 40? A. Increase password reuse. B. Disable all switch logs. C. Use only. The answer is D. Perform wireless scans and compare findings to the approved inventory. Wireless scanning detects access points that are not part of the approved environment. Reduced logging, shared accounts, and password reuse make rogue devices and abuse harder to control. Question 41. A workstation at a cloud startup shows kernel level persistence after malware removal attempts. Which response is safest during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 41? A. Trust the same infected operating system to clean itself. B. Give the user domain admin rights. C. Add the malware folder to antivirus exclusions. D. Image the system from trusted media after preserving evidence. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Image the system from trusted media after preserving evidence. Root-like persistence can hide from normal tools, so trusted reimaging provides a cleaner recovery path. Self-cleaning from the infected OS, antivirus exclusions, and extra privileges increase risk. Question 42. Which tool category helps a manufacturing plant detect suspicious process behavior across endpoints while updating the runbook for scenario 9 to 42? A. Cable toner only. B. Analog modem. C. Label printer. D. Endpoint detection and response. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Endpoint detection and response. EDR monitors endpoint activity and can detect, investigate, and respond to suspicious behavior. Modems, label printers, and cable toners do not provide endpoint behavioral security monitoring. Question 43. How should a legal office reduce risk from a critical vulnerability with active exploitation for the next maintenance window for scenario 9 to 43? A. Disable vulnerability reporting. B. Patch only systems with no network access. C. Prioritize patching or mitigation based on severity, exposure, and exploitability. D. Delay action until every low-risk issue is closed. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Prioritize patching or mitigation based on severity, exposure, and exploitability. Risk-based prioritization focuses remediation on flaws most likely to be exploited and most damaging. Low-risk first patching, isolated only patching, and disabled reporting failed to address urgent exposure. Question 44. Which practice best hardens a new server image for a managed service provider during a quarterly review for scenario 9 to 44? A. Install every optional service by default. B. Leave vendor credentials unchanged. C. Turn off audit logging permanently. D. Apply a secure baseline that disables unnecessary services and enforces approved settings. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Apply a secure baseline that disables unnecessary services and enforces approved settings. Hardening reduces attack surface by removing unnecessary functions. Question 45. Which access model should a retail chain apply to reduce unnecessary privileges on the database cluster while preparing a remediation plan? The answer is B. Least privilege. Least privilege gives users and services only the access needed for their roles. Implicit trust, open relays, and broad shared ownership increase access beyond business need. Question 46. Why should a city agency separate guest Wi-Fi from internal systems after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 46? A. It removes the need for encryption. B. It guarantees all guests are malware free. C. It lets guests administer domain controllers. D. Segmentation limits what guest devices can reach. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Segmentation limits what guest devices can reach. Segmentation creates boundaries that reduce lateral movement and protect internal resources. It does not prevent endpoint health, replace encryption, or justify administrative access. Question 47. After malware is detected on a laptop at a research lab, which immediate containment step is appropriate during a pilot deployment for scenario 9 to 47? A. Quarantine the device from the network. B. Connect it to every file share for testing. C. Copy known executables to production servers. D. Disable all security tools. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Quarantine the device from the network. Quarantine reduces the chance of spread while investigators determine scope and impact. Broad reconnection, disabled tools, and moving executables into production increase exposure. Question 48. Which vulnerabilities can type gives an insurance firm deeper configuration findings on authenticated servers while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 48? A. Phishing simulation only. B. Screen capture scan. C. Credentialed scan. D. Uncredentialed external ping only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Credentialed scan. Credentialed scanning can inspect installed software, patches, and configuration settings from inside the host. Ping-only tests, screenshots, and phishing exercises do not provide the same host-level vulnerability detail. Question 49. How should a hospital network prioritize two vulnerabilities when one has active exploitation and internet exposure as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 9 to 49? A. Address the actively exploited internet-facing vulnerability first. B. Ignore exploit intelligence. C. Patch only systems with the lowest business value. D. Fix alphabetically by system name. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Address the actively exploited internet-facing vulnerability first. Exploit activity and exposure increase likelihood, so they should strongly influence remediation priority. Alphabetical order, ignoring intelligence, and low-value only patching do not reflect risk. Question 50. When a scanner flags a service that is intentionally blocked by compensating controls, what should a university department do before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 50? A. Disable every control around the service. B. Validate and document whether the finding is a false positive or accepted risk. C. Delete the scanner report without review. D. Assume all findings are always exploitable. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Validate and document whether the finding is a false positive or accepted risk. Validation separates true risk from inaccurate or context-limited findings and supports defensible tracking, deleting reports, weakening controls, and assuming exploitability without analysis reduce program quality. Need help preparing for your exam? Scan the QR code or contact us on WhatsApp at +1 716 356 9126. You can also email remote.exam01@gmail.com for professional tutoring and study guides. Question 51. Which control best protects a financial services team's public web app from common HTTP layer attacks during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 51? A. Analog phone splitter. B. Managed hub. C. Plain FTP server. D. Web application firewall. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Web application firewall. A. WAF can inspect web requests and block patterns associated with attacks such as injection or cross-site scripting. Phone splitters, hubs, and FTP servers do not provide HTTP application layer protection. Question 52. Which tool should a remote sales group use to detect sensitive customer records leaving through email or uploads while updating the runbook for scenario 9 to 52? A. Wake on LAN. B. Data loss prevention. C. Jumbo frames. D. DNS round robin only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Data loss prevention. DLP identifies and can block unauthorized movement of sensitive information. Wake on LAN, DNS balancing, and frame size changes do not inspect sensitive content for exfiltration. Question 53. How can a data analytics unit govern cloud app use and enforce policy between users and SaaS platforms for the next maintenance window for scenario 9 to 53? A. An encrypted telnet. B. Open guest account. C. Serial console cable. D. Cloud access security broker. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Cloud Access Security Broker. ACASB provides visibility and policy enforcement for cloud service usage. Console cables, telnet, and guest accounts do not govern SaaS access or data controls. Question 54. Which control checks device posture before allowing systems onto a software company's internal network during a quarterly review for scenario 9 to 54? A. Public DNS recursion. B. Default printer sharing. C. The answer is C. Network access control. NAC can evaluate identity, compliance, and device health before granting network access. Open recursion, printer sharing. Question 55. Which firewall approach should a call center use for a sensitive subnet with no stated business need for inbound access while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9 to 55? A. Disable role logging permanently. B. Default deny with explicit allow rules. C. Allow all traffic and investigate later. D. Permit any source to any destination. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Default deny with explicit allow rules. Default deny limits access to documented and approved flows only. Open rules and disabled logging expand attack paths and reduce visibility. Question 56. Which technology can actively block suspicious network traffic in line for a distribution warehouse after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 56? A. Intrusion prevention system. B. Cable label maker. C. Passive IDs only. D. Paper asset register. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Intrusion prevention system. An IPS sits in line and can block traffic that matches malicious patterns or behavior. A passive IDs alerts only, while asset registers and labels do not block traffic. Question 57. Which platform gives a regional clinic broader endpoint and telemetry correlation beyond traditional EDR during a pilot deployment for scenario 9 to 57? A. Plain text inventory. B. A managed switch. C. Extended detection and response. D. A local only calculator app. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Extended detection and response. XDR correlates telemetry across multiple security layers to improve detection and response. Inventory text, local utilities, and unmanaged switches do not provide cross-layer security analytics. Question 58. How should a payment processor secure company phones that access business email while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 58? A. Share one phone for all employees. B. Store passwords in contact names. C. Let users disable all lock screens. D. Use mobile device management to enforce encryption, screen lock, and remote wipe. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Use mobile device management to enforce encryption, screen lock, and remote wipe. MDM allows centralized enforcement of mobile security settings and recovery actions. No screen locks, shared phones, and visible passwords weaken mobile access control. Question 59. For personally owned devices at a school district, which approach separates corporate data from personal data as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 9 to 59? A. Public file sharing. B. Local admin rights for every user. C. Disabling device encryption. D. Containerization or managed work profile. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Containerization or managed work profile. Containerization keeps business data managed and separable from personal content. Public sharing, no encryption, and broad administrator rights increase data exposure. Question 60. Which wireless configuration best supports enterprise user authentication at a logistics company before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 60? A. Shared WPA password posted publicly. B. WPA3 enterprise with 8021X authentication. C. WEP for compatibility. D. Open Wisconsin file with no encryption. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. WPA3 Enterprise with 8021X authentication. WPA3 Enterprise with 8021X provides stronger encryption and individual authentication. Open networks, public shared passwords, and WEP are weak or obsolete. Question 61. Before deploying new laptops, which step helps a cloud startup maintain consistent security settings during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 61? A. Apply a secure baseline image and verify compliance. B. Remove endpoint protection. C. Let each user choose security settings randomly. D. Disable automatic updates forever. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Apply a secure baseline image and verify compliance. A baseline image standardizes approved configuration and reduces configuration drift, random settings, disabled updates, and removed protection create inconsistent and vulnerable endpoints. Question 62. Which method safely analyzes a suspicious attachment received by a manufacturing plant while updating the runbook for scenario 9 to 62? A. Disable antivirus before testing. B. Open it in a sandboxed analysis environment. C. Open it on a production domain controller. D. Forward it to all employees. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Open it in a sandboxed analysis environment. Sandboxing isolates execution so analysts can observe behavior with reduced risk to production systems. Production execution, broad forwarding, and disabled defenses can spread malware. Question 63. How can a legal office detect related events across firewalls, endpoints, and identity logs for the next maintenance window for scenario 9 to 63? A. Delete older identity logs. B. Use SIEM correlation rules. C. Use only handwritten notes. D. Rely on one user's memory. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Use SIEM correlation rules. A. SIEM centralizes and correlates logs to identify patterns that individual tools may miss. Manual notes, deleted logs, and memory cannot reliably correlate distributed events. Question 64. Which automation helps a managed service provider respond consistently when phishing is reported during a... The answer is B. A SOAR playbook that enriches, quarantines, and opens an investigation ticket. SOAR playbooks automate repeatable response steps and reduce delay during common incidents. Unstructured manual processes, disabled gateways, and exposed passwords undermine response quality. Question 65. How should a retail chain limit standing administrator access to critical systems while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9 to 65? A. Privileged access management with just-in-time elevation. B. A shared root password. C. Permanent domain admin rights for every technician. D. No approval for privileged sessions. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Privileged access management with just-in-time elevation. PAM and just-in-time access reduce the time and scope of privileged exposure. Permanent broad rights, shared passwords, and no approval weaken accountability and control. Question 66. Which identity approach lets a city agency use one trusted login across multiple cloud applications after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 66? A. Plain text password sharing. B. Anonymous access to all apps. C. Federated single sign-on. D. Local accounts in every app with different owners. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Federated single sign-on. Federated SSO allows applications to trust a central identity provider for authentication. Separate and managed accounts, anonymous access, and password sharing reduce control and visibility. Question 67. A push-based MFA system at a research lab is being abused with repeated prompts. Which improvement helps during a pilot deployment for scenario 9 to 67? A. Tell users to approve every prompt. B. Number matching or phishing resistant MFA. C. Make passwords shorter. D. Turn off MFA for all users. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Number matching or phishing resistant MFA. Number matching and phishing resistant methods reduce accidental approvals and push fatigue risk. Disabling MFA, approving every prompt, and shorter passwords weaken authentication. Question 68. When an employee leaves an insurance firm, which EM process must happen quickly while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 68? A. Forward credentials to the new hire. B. Deprovision accounts and revoke active sessions. C. Increase the user's privileges. D. Keep VPN access active indefinitely. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Deprovision accounts and revoke active sessions. Timely deprovisioning prevents former users from accessing systems after separation. More privileges. Question 69. Which log management practice helps a hospital network support investigations and compliance as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 9 to 69? A. Define retention periods and protect logs from unauthorized modification. B. Allow anyone to edit logs. C. Delete logs before incidents are reviewed. D. Store logs only in volatile memory. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Define retention periods and protect logs from unauthorized modification. Retention and integrity controls preserve evidence and make investigation timelines more reliable. Editable, volatile, or prematurely deleted logs weaken accountability and compliance. Question 70. During incident response at a university department, which step focuses on stopping further damage after detection before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 70? A. Routine onboarding. B. Marketing review. C. Containment. D. Procurement. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Containment. Containment isolates affected accounts, hosts, or network paths to limit the incident's spread. Procurement, marketing, and onboarding are business activities outside the immediate incident control phase. Question 71. Which practice preserves evidence integrity when a financial services team collects a laptop for forensics during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 71? A. Maintain chain of custody documentation. B. Wipe the drive before imaging. C. Let multiple people use the laptop casually. D. Store evidence with no labels. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Maintain chain of custody documentation. Chain of custody records who handled evidence, when it was handled, and how it was protected. Casual use, wiping, and unlabeled storage undermine evidence reliability. Question 72. After restoring service, what should a remote sales group perform to prevent the same incident from recurring while updating the runbook for scenario 9 to 72? A. Root cause analysis. B. Cancel all future testing. C. Delete lessons learned notes. D. Ignore the original weakness. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Root cause analysis. Root cause analysis identifies the underlying issue and informs corrective action. Ignoring weaknesses, deleting notes, and canceling tests make recurrence more likely. Question 73. Which activity best describes threat hunting at a data analytics unit for the next maintenance window for scenario 9 to 73? A. Proactively searching telemetry for signs of compromise based on a hypothesis. B. Approving every firewall change without review. C. Waiting only for users to complain. D. Turning off all alerts. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Proactively searching telemetry for signs of compromise based on a hypothesis. Threat hunting is proactive and hypothesis driven rather than only alert driven. Passive waiting, disabled alerts, and unreviewed changes reduce detection capability. Question 74. Which backup strategy improves a software company's ransomware resilience during a quarterly review for scenario 9 to 74? A. Never test restores. B. Maintain offline or immutable backups tested through restoration. C. Keep the only backup mounted to every workstation. D. Store backups on the infected server only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Maintain offline or immutable backups tested through restoration. Immutable or offline backups resist alteration by malware, and restore testing confirms recoverability. Always mounted, untested, or same server backups may fail during ransomware recovery. Question 75. If a call center can lose at most 15 minutes of data, which metric is being defined while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9 to 75? A. Recovery point objective. B. Mean time to repair. C. Mean time between failures. D. Annualized rate of occurrence. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Recovery point objective. RPO defines the maximum acceptable amount of data loss measured in time. MTBF, MTTR, and RO describe reliability, repair time, and likelihood rather than data loss tolerance. Question 76. Which recovery site should a distribution warehouse choose when it needs near immediate failover with running infrastructure after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 76? A. Unpowered storage closet. B. Empty office suite. C. Hot site. D. Cold site. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Hot site. A hot site has systems and connectivity ready for rapid failover. Cold or empty locations require significant setup and cannot provide near immediate recovery. Question 77. Why would a regional clinic place multiple web servers behind a load balancer during a pilot deployment for scenario 9 to 77? A. To distribute traffic and improve service availability. B. To remove the need for patching. C. To make passwords optional. D. To store encryption keys in cookies. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. To distribute traffic and improve service availability. Load balancing spreads requests and can route around failed servers. Patching, authentication, and key management remain necessary regardless of load balancing. Question 78. Which power control helps a payment processor handle short utility outages for network equipment while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 78? A. Uninterruptible power supply. B. Open wireless network. C. Flat LAN design. D. Expired TLS certificate. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Uninterruptible power supply. AUP supplies temporary power and can bridge short outages or allow graceful shutdown. Open Wisconsin PHY, flat VLANs, and expired certificates do not provide electrical continuity. Question 79. How should a school district secure infrastructure as code templates before deployment as part of the risk reduction project for scenario 9 to 79? A. Hardcode secrets in. The answer is E. Scan templates for misconfigurations and require code review. EX scanning and review catch insecure settings before they become live infrastructure. Unreviewed deployments, hard-coded secrets, and no version control increase cloud risk. Question 80. Which step reduces risk from vulnerable container images in a logistics company's registry before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 80? A. Store secrets in image layers. B. Scan images and rebuild from trusted base images. C. Run every container as privileged by default. D. Ignore image agent source. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Scan images and rebuild from trusted base images. Image scanning and trusted rebuilds help remove known vulnerabilities and unsafe components. Privileged containers, ignored provenance, and secrets in layers increase compromise impact. Question 81. In a public cloud deployment, which statement about shared responsibility is accurate for a cloud startup during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 81? A. The customer maintains the provider's physical data center. B. The provider handles every customer password. C. No one is responsible for identity controls. D. The provider secures the underlying cloud, while the customer secures configured workloads and data. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is E. The provider secures the underlying cloud, while the customer secures configured workloads and data. Shared responsibility divides duties between the cloud provider and the customer based on service model. Passwords, physical facilities, and identity controls cannot be ignored or assigned incorrectly. Question 82. Which remote access design gives a manufacturing plant stronger access control than exposing admin ports to the internet while updating the runbook for scenario 9 to 82? A. Disable logging for remote sessions. B. Expose RDP to any source. C. Use a VPN or zero trust access broker with MFA. D. Publish SSH private keys. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is you use a VPN or zero trust access broker with MFA. Controlled remote access with strong authentication reduces exposure of administrative services. Open admin ports, exposed keys, and disabled logs increase the chance and impact of compromise. Question 83. Which classification should a legal office apply to payroll data before choosing safeguards for the next maintenance window for scenario 9 to 83? A. Public marketing content. B. Anonymous weather data. C. Sensitive or confidential. D. Discarded test data with no controls. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Sensitive or confidential. Payroll records contain personal and financial information that requires stronger protection. Public, discarded, or anonymous labels understate the sensitivity of payroll data. Question 84. How should a managed service provider protect database files stored on cloud volumes during a quarterly review for scenario 9 to 84? A. Use guest accounts for database administrators. B. Use encryption at rest with controlled key access. C. Store all files world readable. D. Disable access logs. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Use encryption at rest with controlled key access. Encryption at rest protects stored data if media or snapshots are exposed, while key access controls limit use. World readable files, no logs, and best administration weaken confidentiality and accountability. Question 85. Which key management practice is strongest for retail chains? High value signing keys while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9 to 85. A. Email private keys to administrators. B. Store and manage keys in an HSM with rotation procedures. C. Place keys in public code repositories. D. Reuse one key forever. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Store and manage keys in an HSM with rotation procedures. An HSM helps protect private keys from extraction and supports controlled cryptographic operations. A mailing, never rotating, or publishing keys destroys the trust those keys provide. Question 86. Which analysis helps a city agency identify critical processes and acceptable downtime after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 86? A. Packet fragmentation test. B. Business impact analysis. C. Ward driving survey. D. Password reuse check only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Business impact analysis. A. B. Maps business processes to impact, recovery priorities, and downtime tolerance. Wireless surveys, fragmentation tests, and password checks do not define business recovery priorities. Question 87. Which document should a research lab maintain to track identified risks, owners, likelihood, impact, and treatment plans during a pilot deployment for scenario 9 to 87? A. Risk register. B. Wallpaper policy. C. Cable crimper. D. DHCP lease file only. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. Risk register. A risk register documents risk details and supports ongoing management and accountability. Hardware tools, lease files, and cosmetic policies do not track organizational risk treatment. Question 88. Which risk strategy is used when an insurance firm buys cyber insurance for certain financial losses while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 88? A. Risk acceptance only. B. Risk ignoring. C. Risk avoidance by deleting all systems. D. Risk transference. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Risk transference. Insurance transfers part of the financial impact to another party under defined conditions. Acceptance keeps the risk. Avoidance eliminates the activity. And ignoring is not a valid management strategy. Question 89. After remediation, a hospital network still has a small remaining exposure approved by leadership. What is this called as part of a risk reduction project for scenario 9 to 89? A. Broadcast storm. B. Residual risk. C. False. The answer is B. Residual risk. Residual risk is the risk that remains after controls or treatments are applied. Zero risk is unrealistic. False encryption is not a standard risk term. And broadcast storm is a network condition. Question 90. Which due diligence item should a university department request from a vendor that will host sensitive data before the production rollout for scenario 9 to 90? A. Permission to bypass contractual review. B. A promise to avoid all documentation. C. A shared administrator password. D. Security questionnaire, audit report, and data handling commitments. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Security questionnaire, audit report, and data handling commitments. Vendor due diligence evaluates whether the third party can protect data and meet obligations. No documentation, shared credentials, and bypassed review increase third party risk. Question 91. Which agreement defines expected uptime and response targets for a financial services team's managed security provider during a service reliability review for scenario 9 to 91? A. Personal text message. B. Open guest Wi-Fi policy. C. Password hint list. D. Service level agreement. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Service level agreement, and SLA documents measurable service expectations such as uptime, response time, and escalation commitments. Informal messages, Wi-Fi policies, and password hints do not establish service performance terms. Question 92. Before sharing proprietary designs with a consultant, which document should a remote sales group require while updating the runbook for scenario 9 to 92? A. Public press release. B. Default router password list. C. Open source license for all data. D. Non-disclosure agreement. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is D. Non-disclosure agreement. An NDA creates confidentiality obligations for information shared with the consultant. Press releases, broad open licensing, and password lists do not protect proprietary information. Question 93. Which contract clause helps a data analytics unit verify a vendor's security controls over time for the next maintenance window for scenario 9 to 93? A. No logging requirement. B. Unlimited anonymous access. C. Right to audit. D. Permanent waiver of review. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Right to audit. A right to audit clause allows the organization to assess or verify vendor controls according to the agreement. Anonymous access, no logs, and review waivers reduce oversight. Question 94. How should a software company reduce privacy risk when collecting customer data during a quarterly review for scenario 9 to 94? A. Publish customer records for testing. B. Collect every possible field just in case. C. Collect only the data needed for a defined business purpose. D. Store data forever without review. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is C. Collect only the data needed for a defined business purpose. Data minimization limits exposure by reducing unnecessary collection and retention. Over-collection, indefinite storage, and public testing data increase privacy and compliance risk. Question 95. Which assessment is performed by an independent party to evaluate a call center's controls while preparing a remediation plan for scenario 9 to 95? A. Uncontrolled self-editing of logs. B. External audit. C. Casual hallway conversation. D. Unplanned production reboot. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. External audit. An external audit uses an independent reviewer to assess control design or operation. Self-edited logs, informal conversations, and reboots are not independent control assessments. Question 96. Which training outcome is most useful after a distribution warehouse runs a phishing simulation after a recent audit finding for scenario 9 to 96? A. Managers disable security reporting. B. Employees recognize suspicious messages and report them through the approved channel. C. Employees learn to approve unknown MFA prompts. D. Users store passwords in email drafts. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Employees recognize suspicious messages and report them through the approved channel. Awareness training should improve recognition and reporting of social engineering attempts, approving prompts, storing passwords in drafts, and disabling reporting undermine security culture. Question 97. How should security analysts protect confidentiality when a regional clinic shares regulated reports with a contractor during a pilot deployment? A. Send the files through an unsigned public link. B. Encrypt the files and restrict access to authorized recipients. C. Store the files without permissions for faster access. D. Publish the files on an internal wiki. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Encrypt the files and restrict access to authorized recipients. Encryption and access control reduce the chance that sensitive data is viewed by unauthorized users. Open sharing, weak permissions, and public links expose the data instead of protecting confidentiality. Question 98. Which control best supports integrity when a payment processor needs proof that a downloaded firmware image was not altered while documenting the incident ticket for scenario 9 to 98? A. Disable logging during the firmware upgrade. B. Compare the vendor provided hash with the downloaded file hash. C. Compress the firmware before installation. D. Rename the firmware file after download. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. Compare the vendor provided hash with the downloaded file hash. A cryptographic hash changes when the file changes, making it useful for validating integrity. Compression, renaming, and disabling logs do not prove that the file contents remained unchanged. Question 99. Why would a school district deploy redundant power and clustering for the database cluster as part of the risk reduction project? A. To improve availability during component failures. B. To remove the need for authentication. C. To make stored data anonymous. D. To replace incident response planning. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is A. To improve availability during component failures. Redundancy allows a service to continue operating when a single component fails. Authentication, anonymization, and incident response address different security goals and do not directly provide high availability. Question 100. When a logistics company needs proof that an administrator approved a critical change, which mechanism is strongest before the production rollout for scenario 9100? A. A verbal approval with no record. B. A digitally signed approval record. C. A shared administrator password. D. A deleted change ticket. Take a moment to choose your answer. The answer is B. A digitally signed approval record. Digital signatures support non-repudiation because they bind approval to a specific signer and protect the record from undetected modification. Shared passwords, verbal approval, and deleted records weaken accountability. Thank you for watching. For professional exam preparation, tutoring, and study guides, scan the QR code or use the contact information shown on screen.